set the stage for Dr. Jill Biden and former President Bill Clinton. Complete coverage of the Democratic National Convention continues next on MSNBC.
It's day 2 of the Democratic National Convention. Last night set the tone for the week, with the biggest star of the Democratic Party dropping the hammer on Donald Trump. If Michelle Obama had addressed a packed arena, she would have brought the House down. Her simple, alarming message: Donald Trump is not up for the job of being president. As Democrats head into the second night, there are more major developments on 2 stories from Trump world. In a damning report on Russian election interference, the Senate Intelligence Committee described a grave counterintelligence threat inside the 2016 Trump campaign. In other words, there's now even more evidence tying the Trump campaign to Russian intelligence. Much more on this is coming up. But first, after weeks of protesting efforts to dismantle the Postal Service, Democrats can claim a cautious victory. Trump's Postmaster General is backing down, saying that he will suspend all changes being made to the agency for now. Louis DeJoy said to avoid even the appearance of any impact on the election. On election mail, I am suspending these initiatives until after the election is concluded. He added the Postal Service is ready today to handle whatever volume of election mail it receives this fall. This reversal comes just days before he's set to face House and Senate committees. DeJoy will still face a grilling from congressional Democrats on the actions that have already caused major delays in mail delivery across the country. Take a look at this photo, provided to NBC News by a postal employee at a distribution center in New York. It shows bins full of undelivered mail. One bin is dated August 7th. The photo was taken on August 16th. The employee attributes the delays to DeJoy's new policies. And there are at least 20 states that are planning to file lawsuits against him. But even as DeJoy appears to be backing off, Trump today issued one of his most absurd claims yet on the election, saying mail-in voting might force a redo of the election, something that is not even possible or legal.
Absentee is great, but universal is going to be a disaster, the likes of which our country has never seen. It'll end up being a rigged election, or they will never come out with an outcome. They'll have to do it again. And nobody wants that, and I don't want that.
Joining me now is former Senator Barbara Boxer of California, Jonathan Lemire, White House reporter for the Associated Press, and Jason Johnson, professor of journalism and politics at Morgan State University. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to go right in the center in the little montage I just showed of all my guests here. Jonathan, Elizabeth Warren has expressed the doubts that I'm hearing from a lot of other people. She tweeted, "This is a start, but we still need to reverse all the damage, fully fund USPS, investigate DeJoy's conflicts. And we need to keep our eyes on DeJoy so he keeps his promise and doesn't find new ways to dismantle the USPS." And she says, "I'll be watching his actions, not his words." The American Postal Workers Union also put out a statement saying we must ensure that these rollbacks announced today are made permanent and that the People's Post Office remains a public service. This is the United States Postal Service, not postal business. It was overwhelmingly supported by the people, and belongs to the people. They have made it clear that they intend to keep it. A lot of doubts that DeJoy is going to back off. I don't know how much credence even the White House puts in it, because it could be that he's just saying that for the politics. What's your reporting?
So, sir, first of all, Senator Warren speaks for a lot of her Democratic colleagues there, where they feel like this is a first step, that the fact that DeJoy has said that he will pause these reforms, he'll pause these changes, and let's be honest, these cutbacks in service. That's good, that's encouraging, but first they're also demanding that he revert to where service was a few weeks ago, before these changes put into place. And let's remember, Joy, it's not just about the crush of mail-in voting that we're, of course, expecting in the weeks ahead. It's also Americans in their day-to-day lives being unable to receive perhaps necessary medication. This is something that seniors and veterans alike are really struggling with right now, and there's a cascading delays across the country with the Postal Service. As you said, service, not business. The president's rhetoric on this has shifted slightly in the last few days. I think they were caught off guard a little bit by the fierce blowback they were getting. This became the story in the country over the last 72 hours.
Wait, they're surprised?
So.
They're surprised that there was pushback on people not being able to get their packages, their mail, and their Social Security cards? Who's working in the White House? Is anybody there actually meet any human beings outside of that building? I mean, are you kidding? They were surprised that people were upset they weren't getting their mail?
They take their cues from the president, Joy. And the president himself, of course, has been on this for a long time. These sort of unfounded assertions, these unfounded conspiracy theories that mail-in voting would lead to widespread voter fraud. Of course, there's no evidence of that. And he keeps returning that time and again. And that was fueling a lot of these cutbacks, and of course, which would allow him to sow seeds of chaos, question perhaps the election results this November. You heard him do it again today. You can't be an election do-over. There might be delays. That's true. I think we all should adjust our thinking. It's not going to be election night. It could be election week. It could be several days before we have an answer. And he's trying to suggest that because that's different than what's happened before, therefore it invalidates the whole process, which, of course, is not the case. But this is something where that he has stepped back a little bit on this, that they recognize this is a political loser, especially in recent days when members of his own party, when fellow Republicans were finally speaking out against these changes.
Jason Johnson, I feel like maybe, I should maybe become a White House consultant, because I could have told them for probably, a fifth of what he's paying those people that are working in the White House. And if you don't, can we put the picture back up of the mail sorting? Those aren't ballots. Do they think that only ballots go through the mail? I'm starting to think that Donald Trump thinks the only thing that the Postal Service does is deliver ballots. They're not delivering packages and Christmas and birthday presents and Social Security checks and people's checks. Like, those are packages. Anyway, Jason, you wrote an interesting piece that talked about the long term. This goes to the thing that I've thought a lot about, because this isn't the first time that Republicans have tried to break the Postal Service. They want to privatize it. A lot of them do. Walk us through a little bit of how we wound up with 6 white guys on the U.S. Postal Service Board of Governors, none of whom were firing the guy who was breaking the Postal Service.
So, Joy, thank you so much. I wrote this piece for The Grill because I, like most Americans, was concerned, how the heck did we get here and how can we fix it? You can go back to around 2015, 2016. The law requires that the Board of Governors that runs the post office is supposed to have 9 members. But for years, you had about 5 representatives that Barack Obama kept appointing, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, because he's required to put both on this committee. They kept getting blocked. They kept getting blocked by Senator Bernie Sanders because Sanders was concerned that the Republicans that Obama nominated were going to privatize the post office. Now, that was a good idea at the time. The problem is if you block anybody who was on this sort of slate, then you basically get rid of the entire group. So by the end of 2016, there was only 1 member of the Board of Governors, and pretty much our post office was being run by an emergency committee for years. That has allowed Trump to put on nothing but his cronies to run it now, which is why no one has stood up to DeJoy. He may be backing off because he's getting in trouble, but trust me, if the Board of Governors was filled with men and women, because right now there's no women on the committee, who actually cared about the post office and cared about public service, they would have gotten rid of DeJoy last summer.
Yeah, and Senator Boxer, I'm going to let you sort of preview. What would you want to ask if you were, still in the Senate and were on one of these committees? Because, my first question would be, are you going to put the boxes back? Because you took boxes, and are you going to put the sorting machines back? And are you going to let people have overtime? Because that's the only reason that they can't sort the mail. But what would you want to ask DeJoy if you got him in front of you?
Well, that was good. But instead of asking him, I would say, as a United States Senator, you are going to put the mailboxes back. You are going to get those sorting machines and put them back. Because if you don't do this, and you are going to pay overtime if necessary, and you are going to support $25 billion, which the House is going to vote to do, because this is election time. It is also COVID time. People need their meds. People need their ballots. People need their paychecks. People need their Social Security checks. And this is the time that the Postal Service is keeping us all together when we're so anxious and apart from our families. So I don't even think it's a matter of questions. He has to run the post office, and he has to restore all the bad things that he did. And one last point I would make, Trump's gone too far. I mean, I have a list of things that we all said, this is a bridge too far. But but now he's attacking this iconic institution that has 91% support. And even the Republicans in the Senate have decided they're going to have a hearing.
But
now, they don't do anything,
right.
So they're scared.
But I mean, you know Mitch McConnell. He's already said that even if, and the House is going to come in this weekend and pass a bill to restore funding to the Postal Service, and he said he won't even look at it. So Mitch McConnell, I mean, he gets mail. Does he not have family members? Does he not have senior citizens in his life? It's almost as if he's like, well, I don't care if no one gets the mail. Just like he did with Russian collusion, he's going to look the other way because he thinks it keeps Trump in power, and that means he keeps him in power.
Well, guess what? He's running for election.
Yeah.
And the race is very tight. And if he wants to give his opponent an issue, he couldn't give her a better issue, Amy McGrath, to just say, I will promise you, I will make sure that we save the post office, that we save Social Security, that we save Medicare. And I won't cower in the corner from this president. So I think he's in some kind of trouble. And I would bet you'll see some money going to the post office. And, that's a bold prediction.
Well, I mean, and you think she's also a military veteran, so she could, 15% of the staff of the post office are military. Jonathan, there's already signs that Trump is already pre-throwing DeJoy under the bus. He said, I don't know what he's doing. He's already kind of, set the table that he's just going to throw him under the bus. Is DeJoy about to find out what happens when you get limelight in a way that Donald Trump doesn't think is helpful to him?
Well, that is his standard play, right? When there's someone in Trump's orbit, even tangentially, or sometimes in the inner circle, that runs afoul of the media coverage, let's say, and runs into some trouble, the president is quick to distance himself from that person. We certainly are starting to see some signs of that now. It's not clear exactly how that plays out in the days and weeks ahead. Let's remember, of course, there is an election looming. There is some reluctance in the White House to make this any more of a thing than it already is. But I also, if we take just a half step back, it's a reflection also about the president and where he and his campaign's mindset is. He knows he's losing. That's what a lot of Republicans are worried about right now, is that the president is fixated on the election being rigged. Yesterday, he had events in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and at both places said, well, the only way we could lose this is if it's rigged. Yeah. He keeps returning to that theme. And if you're crying foul here, if you're alleging voter fraud, that means you're not very confident you're going to have the most votes. And certainly he did win last time without popular vote. He could again. But there's real concern here. This is betraying a lack of confidence in his election chances. And Republicans fear he could take the Senate now with him. Yeah, well, you know what? They could take the Senate down with him, because if you're letting the post office die, no one's going to reelect you. This is like free campaign advice on cable news TV. Thank you, former Senator Barbara Box, cable news TV. Jonathan Lemire, Jason Johnson, thank you guys very much. And up next on The ReidOut.